good afternoon, and welcome to today's episode of Nutmeg Sports. It is Wednesday, August 17th. I'm Frank Granito, and joining me in studio today is Dave Stewart of the McKinnon Advertiser. We hope at some point in the show we'll be joined by the general manager of the Bridgeport Bluefish, Jamie Toole. But for the time being, Dave, let's start today's show off. There are exactly 20 days until opening night for FCX football now. We can get to football in a little bit, but we've had you on for 3 weeks straight now while Rio and the Olympics have been going on. So what have you got for us this week with your Olympic update?
A lot of good stuff, of course, with the Olympics going on. Just, between Michael Phelps and the gymnasts and just everything, handball too, as one of our favorites. As far as the local guys go, we've had Andrew Campbell in rowing and Charlie Cole in rowing from New Canaan, and also Thomas Dunstan in water polo. Andrew Campbell had the best of the bunch there because he and his partner Josh Konieczny reached the A Division final, which is the medal race. Of course, last week they had a great race in the semifinals. They're rowing in the lightweight double sculls. They finished second in their heat behind the eventual champion France. Their time was 6:35.19. They were pretty steady throughout that semifinal race, and Ireland rallied at the end, but they were able to hold them off over the final 200 or 300 meters. Campbell has said that their goal from the beginning was to reach the A final, and they accomplished that. The next day in the finals, same time, they finished almost the identical time, but the race, the field was just faster, and they finished fifth overall. So they didn't get a medal out of it, but reaching the A Division final, you got to figure Andrew Campbell's going to be back also.
And that's the big thing you bring up there. Andrew Campbell will most likely be back. Obviously, we have Charlie Cole, who is a second-time Olympian, who was also competing. But Campbell, his first Olympics, and to set that goal of knowing, okay, we want to reach that final, and to see them accomplish that goal. It's tough they don't come out with a medal, and especially in this Olympics, the U.S. has been very spoiled. We're 40 medals ahead of anyone else who's near us. So
doing very well, very well.
It's unfortunate that there's the high expectation of, you've reached that medal round, you've got to find a way to come away with one. But they were consistent with their rowing. They competed against the best competition in the world, and honestly, they held their own throughout the entire tournament.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's everybody has different goals. Obviously, when you're talking about a guy who is as renowned as Michael Phelps, you're talking about gold medals every race. He gets a silver, and everybody's aghast about it. But a guy like Andrew Campbell, he has a personal goal. There's a lot of people who just either set a time goal or just a number, and some people that it's advancing to a race. And in his case, they set out the goal of reaching the A Division final, and they got there, so they met their goal. Medal would have been nice, but there's still time for him. He's young. I believe he's 23, so he'll most likely be back.
And this was a tough Olympics for it to be his first competition. When you factor in, there's all the bacterial issues with the water, but then there was chop for most of the tournament. There's the high winds that they had to cancel rowing for a couple of the days. That's a lot of elements to factor in, along with the pressure of competing in the Olympics for the first time.
It's interesting because, like you were saying, the water, the bacteria in the water was what everybody was talking about beforehand, but then it turned out to be the weather, particularly the strong winds, that turned out to be the real issue for the rowers. I mean, you had the boats capsizing during practice. You had, and in one case during a race, and just made it very difficult to figure out what it was going to be like from day to day. But they persevered, and they were able to get to that A Division final. And I watched the semifinal race, and they were great. They went right into second. They were second the whole way through. They were right on France's tail there the whole time. So they're the reigning world champs. They won the gold medal. That's a tough boat to beat, and but they were right there with them the whole way through.
It is, and I felt that down the stretch, especially when we got to the final round, the U.S. held their own for that first 1,000 meters or so, and then you sort of saw the veteran experience of the French and those other teams come into play, where they're used to having to row that many days of such high competition, whereas the U.S. just didn't have enough energy to find that final gear, that fourth, fifth final gear you needed down the stretch of those final 1,000 meters.
Yeah, and you wonder how much that had an effect on it, like having to row with all the changes in the schedule and everything, having to row a couple of days in a row, and then just basically having to have a little more stamina in a case like that, and you're not having the day break between the semis and the finals that you would have had had the original schedule held. I wonder if that made a difference. But that being said, their time was virtually the same from this in the semifinals and the finals. It was just that everybody else had that extra gear at that point, and they finished in fifth. For Cole, of course, it was a little disappointing because they, got a bronze medal in London in the men's 4, and didn't make the A division final here. They actually won their B final there, of course, but that's not a medal. That's not a medal race, so they go home empty-handed at that point. Their time in the semifinals was 6:19:08. That was actually the fifth fastest time in the two semifinals, and with 6 qualifying. Had they gone simply by time, they would have been in the finals, but they don't do that. They advance the top 3 boats in each race.
And it's a tough break for Cole, but again, coming off able to win a bronze medal over in London, and rowing is not something that the U.S. is known for.
Not at all.
We are nowhere near being considered a world power. It's not something we expect to win a medal in. But again, you feel bad for Armstrong, because it's just get to that point and all of a sudden the whole country is, oh, well, you're there, you better win a medal, you got to find a way, look at all the other ones we've done.
Exactly, but again, he'll be back, he'll be back, and it's a similar thing to Thomas Dunstan in water polo. He's only 18 years old, going to be starting and playing at USC this year. You got to figure he'll be part of water polo in the future. The men's water polo team, another disappointment this year, 2-3 in the preliminaries. A couple of tough losses too early on, and that kind of knocked them back.
It was, and that was a team that there were high expectations for, and they really did underachieve. But Dunstan, I think he's still only 17 actually, hasn't turned 18 yet. Mm-hmm. He is the youngest member of that team. They've got a lot of veterans who you figure are going into their second, some of them into their third Olympics, will not be back for a fourth one come 2020. So he will be relied upon, especially coming off his collegiate career, as a big-time player for that team. And he saw a lot of time this year in competition.
Yeah, and the last game against Italy, a 10-7 win, he got a goal. So he was in the mix there. He's definitely part of the future. But that with team sports like that, you just when you're looking at rowing and you're looking at times and stuff, things can change. But when you're looking at times and numbers, you've got your performers who are probably going to rise to that level. But when you get to a team sport like that, there's so many variables that go into it. I mean, that 10-9, I think it was 10-9 or 9-8 loss to Spain in the second game really hurt them after losing a lead against Croatia and losing in that first game. That really put their backs to the wall at 0-2, and it's a tough hole to dig out of.
It was, and it was a tough group to be coming out of from the start. You had a lot of teams that were very competitive, but again, for the local guys who went down there and competed, it was really great to see. I thought they had success, at least individually. I thought our guys had a lot of success despite their teams just coming up a little bit short.
They were, it's the Olympics. You get to that level, just being in there, that's an accomplishment in and of itself. And hopefully we'll see Thomas again. I believe in 2020 it's in Tokyo, and we'll see him again, and maybe they'll have a little better luck that time.
Absolutely. So that, again, is our Rio coverage. I'm sure we'll have you back next week, and we can wrap the whole thing up and see where the U.S. finishes in the medal count. A lot of good events as the track and field has started now, so that's going up. And, I mean, outside of the U.S., Usain Bolt just continues to amaze the world, and it's worth mentioning.
Guys like him and Michael Phelps, and you just have to watch them in awe. It's what they can accomplish year in and year out, and at several Olympics, it's just incredible.
It really is. And you had an update on another New Canaan guy. That's Curtis Casali. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago. He was struggling a little bit with the Tampa Bay Rays. They just relegated him. He's now back down with the Durham Bulls. What's going on with Curtis?
It's kind of a little bit of a mixed bag for him so far. He's got 9 games played, 250 batting average, so he's not exactly lighting it up that way, but he has drawn 11 walks in 9 games, so his on-base percentage is up around 462, and he's also slugging near 500. He's at 464. He's got a couple of home runs, both three-run homers with Durham, and he's got 9 RBIs in 9 games. He's only struck out 3 times in 28 at-bats, which is something that was a problem for him at the major league level. He had gotten into a rut where he was striking out a lot. So things are looking good. There's nobody in Tampa Bay, when you really look through their organization, there are no catchers hitting. I think they have 2 at the major league level right now. Bobby Wilson's hitting 200 and Luke Malley's hitting 207. So, and at the AAA level, Kurt's 250 is actually the highest batting average. And I know it's only through 9 games and 28 at-bats, but it's still the highest at that level. So I would expect to see him back. Rosters expand September 1st, and there's no reason they wouldn't call him back up at this point.
No, and Curtis obviously had the huge month of July last summer where he really broke onto the scene, made himself a big part of that Tampa Bay roster. And the big thing about Curtis is they love him for his defensive part of the game. He's a great catcher. He calls a great game. The pitchers love him. The Rays are the worst team in baseball right now. Their record is behind every other team. No one in that organization is hitting. They're struggling to really find themselves. We were talking before, you've got Evan Longoria. What do you do with him? He's only been a member of the Rays, but he's about to age out. Do you find some youth to come in at third base? Do you try to move him, put him on a championship team? They're in a bit of turmoil right now, and it's going to be a rebuilding period, and Curtis really will play a huge part of that role.
Well, pitching's always been their strength. They're a pitching and catching and defensive organization. And so Curtis plays right into that if he can work with those catchers. That's the great thing about him at the major league level is he never carried his hitting woes to the field or to calling a game, and the pitchers all love him. They've also been snake bit a little bit with their pitching injuries this year. I mean, they've had guys out, and they really just haven't had any consistency from the bullpen or from the starting rotation. Chris Archer, who was their best pitcher coming in, he's had an up and down year. So you got to figure Kurt figures into their future at this point, that they're not ready to turn the page on a guy like him, especially since really in comparison to what some other major leaguers are making and some veterans, it's not really costing them a lot at this point.
No, so we know it's good to see him bouncing back and continue to have success back at the AAA level. We hope that he can build off that, bring it back up to the major league level. We are going to stay with baseball when we get back from the break, as we'll be joined by the general manager of the Bridgeport Bluefish, and that's Jamie Toole. But first, we'll go to commercial here on the HAN Network at Nutmeg Sports.
Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook. For more than 50 years, Triple S has been Fairfield County's expert service for carpet, upholstery, and drapery cleaning. We provide the best in repairs and in-depth restoration, understanding fabrics and how to properly clean and restore them. Our staff will come to your home to clean your wall-to-wall carpet to perfection. We can also pick up your fine carpets and bring them to our facilities. With locations in Norwalk, Stamford, and Stratford, Triple S will get the job done fast, big or small. At Triple S, you can count on our people as well as our cleaning. Find us at triplesclean.com or 203-847-8000.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan, and you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
A Better View Window Cleaning Plus has been cleaning glass all over Connecticut for over 20 years. They also specialize in cleaning chandeliers, mirrors, skylights, tiles, and will power wash anything that needs cleaning. They hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and are fully insured and bonded. When you deal with the Better View, you're dealing with the best, not the rest. Call today for a free estimate, 203-284-8836, or visit them online, abetterviewcleaning.com.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Dave Stewart in studio today. Very excited to bring on our next guest, and that is the general manager of the Bridgeport Bluefish, Jamie Toole. Jamie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's beautiful weather. I wish the team was in town.
Oh yeah, this is the one bright spot we think we're going to have. Is it looks like it's going to get pretty hot again this weekend when you guys get back home. But speaking of hot, I mean, the Bluefish have been as hot as any team the second half of this season. What's been the big difference here compared to the little slow start we saw out of the gate?
Yeah, I think it's sort of the same team. I think just we've given it time this year for the guys to build some chemistry and start playing together, and we haven't lost as many players this season as we have in previous seasons. We've had 5 players sign with organizations. So I think it's a little bit of leadership, too. We got guys like Andy Chavez, and I think right now on the roster, 10 or 11 former Major League guys. So a really confident clubhouse, and top to bottom with our lineup, we like it versus any team in the league. So hopefully we can continue to play well, and certainly it would be nice to have playoff baseball back in Bridgeport.
I completely agree, and I think it's an underrated product that you guys are putting out throughout the entire Atlantic League. But you're lucky here. You have one of the more favorable schedules down the stretch. You don't have to play Sugar Land again. You only play against York one more series. What type of a record do you think this team needs to have now moving into the home stretch in order to win your division?
You know, it's an interesting question that you ask. I'm one of the guys that don't really like to look at the standings or the records because you can go crazy with all the different scenarios and thinking about what if this happens and that happens. And, you know, it's sort of like a cliche, but you have to play the games because Sugar Land came in as hot as anybody. He took 3 from us this past home series. Then they travel over to New Britain, who's been struggling a little bit, and they dropped 2 of 3. So in the Atlantic League, every team is good, every team's competitive, and you're going to face a quality starting pitcher and lineup every single night. So like you said, it's a matter of playing with momentum, hopefully staying hot. And for us, we'd like to take 2 out of 3 every series we play, and when we play a 4-game series, we like to take 2 of 4 at least. So I think if we can stay in that range, it's going to be put us close here in the last 30 days.
And you've got a lot of games against your division opponents as well, including the team at top of you, so should be good if you can maintain that 500 average working down the stretch.
Yeah, we'll see. I think 6 versus Somerset. Fortunately, they're all here at the ballpark at Harbor Yard, and then 4 more against the Long Island Ducks. So we play quite a few games, as you mentioned, with the 2 opponents that are right there with us.
Jamie, you mentioned Andy Chavez earlier. He leads the league in batting average, and John Abeladeo, who leads the league in wins. What can you say about those 2 and what they've meant to the Bluefish this year?
Just a quiet confidence. It's been fun to see Indy. He is, I believe, in 40, 41. He's up 39. He's in that age range, and it's just unbelievable. He looks like a 22-year-old kid out there running around, and he's really come into a new amount of athleticism here late in the season. I think early on he was sort of getting going after taking a year off, and he was very cautious with his legs, hamstrings, and quads and so forth. But I think he's got a couple triples in the last 2 weeks, and he just looks like a different player gliding around out there. And with John, he just is sort of the anchor of the rotation. Very confident young man, having pitched at the highest level. And I think that's a lot for our pitching staff, is just to have that confidence that every time you go out there, when this guy's on the hill, we're going to have a chance to win. And I think that sort of spreads. Confidence is contagious, and those 2 gentlemen have brought that to the Bluefish clubhouse.
Jamie, you talked about how you've had 5 players who have been called up to the bigs this season. Just last week, one of your relief pitchers, Brian Moran, got the call with the Atlanta Braves. What can you tell us about Brian as he gets ready to make this transition to the next level, and how does this affect your bullpen in the middle of a playoff push?
Well, I'll kind of answer that in reverse. We're actually in good shape. We just acquired a lefty named Chris Rurick, who pitched in the big leagues for the Padres. We acquired him in the last 3 or 4 days to help us, and we also have 2 other lefties out of the pen. One is a local product, Matt Iannazzo, and then Jimmy Patterson. So we feel pretty good about that left-handed specialist. However, Brian Moran was just a fantastic competitor, really smart pitcher, very intelligent, and would really go after any hitter. Just a lot of, again, I use the word confidence because I think it's so important when you're pitching. And he's going to be at AAA with the Braves, and we wish him success, and hopefully he'll find a way to get to the big league. So Brian Moran, University of North Carolina guy, very intelligent, very hard worker, putting in time on off days, getting in his workout and so forth. So those are the guys you root for, and hopefully he'll have some success there with the Braves.
Obviously, you don't want to put any extra pressure onto the team. You've cooled off a little bit of late. You're sitting right around 500. Split the doubleheader yesterday. 2 more games against the Blue Crabs. Then you come home and you've got a big series with Somerset, and you trail only by half a game in the standings. How important do you think this series will be?
Well, I think from this point on, every series is important. Again, going back to just the competitiveness, and I say the parity. Last season, Long Island and more importantly, Somerset just ran away with the division. I think we ended up finishing like 30 games out of first place. This year is a little bit different across the league, top to bottom. Teams are playing really well. So definitely it's important when you play the teams in your division, like the Somersets and Long Islands, and it'll be a very important series. But again, every game's important because on any given night, any of those teams can lose. And as basic as it sounds, we root for those guys to lose and us to win. And every day that happens is a good day for the Bluefish. So we're a half game out right now. We have 2 more games down in Southern Maryland before coming home, and every game's important, and that's a good thing because it's fun to play a meaningful baseball this time of year. And every day that goes by and you're playing meaningful baseball is a good day for the Bluefish.
And you talked about being back at home. You do get Somerset to come to the ballpark at Harbor Yard after being on the road for 7 straight games. You guys have had some really cool events this summer, and we'll talk about those in a little bit, but what have you got in store now for this upcoming weekend?
Yeah, very excited for this. It's a short home series for us, just a 3-gamer. Starts Friday night, and we're happy to have Ozzie Guillen, former World Series champion manager from the White Sox. I think he was AL Manager of the Year. He's going to be guest managing the Bluefish this Friday night. He actually is connected to our manager, Luis Rodriguez. Luis is his bench coach for the winter ball team that he coaches for. So excited to have Ozzie back in town. It'll be interesting to see if he gets an opportunity to get back in the big leagues. I think at some point he'll be managing again at that level. And Saturday night's probably one of the most fun events each season. Sikorsky's Home Runs for Heroes, Veterans Appreciation Night, fantastic night at the ballpark, post-game fireworks. Just an exceptional night at the ballpark, so hopefully fans can make it out for that. And then Sundays is our family day. 1:12 start on Sundays. Kids run the bases after every game and get a chance to have a full team autograph session with all the Bluefish players, get to meet them, shake hands, and so forth. So nice weekend of fun activities here at the ballpark at Harbor Yard.
And it's great, especially doing it with just that quick homestead. Like you said, only 3 games, but you guys do such a great job of making every game into something so much more. You had Roger Clemens, the former 3-time Cy Young Award winner, come out earlier this year to guest manage, but we got to be honest, we're huge wrestling fans. What was NWO night like? Because we were upset we didn't make it for that one.
Well, the NWO actually is still ahead of us. That's going to be Friday, September the 2nd. And I am a huge wrestling fan myself. I grew up in South Carolina, and that was right in my college years during the probably the peak of the wrestling industry. And I know there's folks out there who don't give it much credence as far as being a sport, but I will tell you that they do a phenomenal job of sports entertainment. And we've tried to connect to WWE, being that we're in their home county, home state, kind of their hometown team. And early this year, we had Linda McMahon out to speak at an event for the team, and now the NWO guest management is really cool. I'm super excited, and the fan base has responded. There's been a lot of ticket sales for the meet and greet, and it'll be probably one of the more entertaining nights that we have here at the ballpark this season.
Well, that's good.
Definitely excited about that one.
That's really good to hear because I thought it was August 2nd, and Donald Eng is going to be super excited to know that we can still make it to that one. Jamie,
yeah, the big question there is, do you call it NWO? Most of the fans around here call them Diesel and Razor Ramon still. So, and I'm like, call them what you want. Just come and see them.
Absolutely. Well, Jamie, I want to thank you for coming on with us, taking time out of your day. We wish you guys the best of luck down the home stretch, and we really hope that we'll be able to have you on again right around the playoff time and maybe get a preview from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate all you guys do for local sports, and your presence in our community is very much appreciated.
Well, thank you again. That was Jamie Toole, the general manager of the Bridgeport Bluefish. Dave and I will take one more break here on Nutmeg Sports. When we get back, we'll have a couple more local sports stories right here on the HAN Network.
Warm weather, light breezes, boats are in the water. There's no better place to celebrate summer than the Dock Shop. Whether in Darien at 51 Tokenique Road or Westport at 609 Riverside Avenue, the Dock Shop is where you'll find everything you need to kick off summer. From the latest summer apparel to the newest fishing tackle, the Dock Shop will help you get the most out of your next beach day or harbor cruise. At the Dock Shop, you'll find a wonderful selection of items made in the USA and right here in New England, all with a distinct nautical flair. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the coastal lifestyle, this is a unique place to shop. DockShop.com.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Drop off your knives to be sharpened, grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
I really wanted something that felt like a home. Coming from a big house, I wanted the feel of a home as opposed to a condo. New Canaan is 6 minutes down the road. New Canaan's a beautiful little town to walk around. I work in Westport. My commute is 20 minutes. It's close to Westchester, where my family is, so the location is ideal. There is no other townhome that compares in the area. This is where I want to be.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor, I'm a high school football coach, I'm a television presenter, and I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN Network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
You're watching the HAN Network, and you're not alone. More than 1.5 million viewers have watched our live sports, news, and entertainment broadcasting since the network launched in August 2015. Advertise on the network that reaches Fairfield County, Connecticut's most engaged audience. Contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Dave Stewart in the studio today. Dave, just last week, we had the Fairfield Sports Commission announce their Sports Persons of the Year. And the 16 new members to the local Sports Person of the Year Club are as follows. And let's start with Bridgeport, where they selected the University of Bridgeport women's soccer team, who made it all the way to the Division II Final Four this year. Darien, they chose the Darien High School football team. They were undefeated, Class LL champions, and unanimously #1 in the state. A no-brainer out of Darien.
Oh, definitely. I mean, teams like that come around once in a blue moon, or a blue wave, you know. But they were just incredible last year.
In my opinion, it's a total no-brainer. You think that there's nothing to debate about it. I got a feeling that some of those kids who play in the spring could think of another team that might have deserved that award as well.
Yeah, you feel like, though, with the football team, with what they did and where Darien has come from over the years and finally breaking through and winning, you know, everything like that and having an undefeated year, it's their time.
It was. Moving down the list, Easton's Joel Barlow's boys golf team, the Division II state champions, took home that title. This was a really interesting one, and I was a big fan of it. Fairfield Ludlow's high school lacrosse teams, both boys and girls, were selected for what they do for the Sticks for Soldiers program. And that was a very cool choice and selection to me, I thought.
No, definitely. You know, and there's a lot of fundraisers and things like that go on among the high school teams and you know, everywhere, not just in the FCAC. And I think that sometimes isn't highlighted as much as it should be. So it's nice to see Fairfield Ludlow getting the recognition for that.
Greenwich's Adarns de Jesus, the gymnast for the high school who won all 5 Class L state titles. I'll repeat that. All 5 of the Class L state titles in gymnastics was selected as their sports person of the year. Monroe's Brian Walker, who participated in a road race in all of 169 Connecticut towns.
That's a busy schedule.
That is. You could never. It's incredible, and it's another guy, you know, off the radar. You wouldn't think about it, but it's a really great choice and impressive accomplishment.
It is. They did a good job picking out some ones that aren't as obvious. You know, Darien football is obvious. Some of these other ones are you know, nice job by the commission.
The town of New Canaan, it was Olivia Homp and Sarah Manley, who were both ranked in the top 25 of all of women's college lacrosse, and as our director Eric Gendron put it, forever attached are Sarah Manley and Olivia Homp. Newtown, it was Curtis Urbina, the youth wrestling coach, who took home the trophy. Norwalk's Seiji Hasokawa of the boys high school tennis team and a state open champion, wins there. Unexpected to see a Norwalk tennis player.
Yeah, you don't usually hear of tennis players coming from Norwalk, getting the accolades he's gotten, but he earned it and he deserved it, and it's great for Norwalk to get on the map in that sport.
You had Stanford High School's girls basketball team, who were Class LL state champions. Stratford's Tyler Matakevich of Temple football, who was the National D1 Defensive Player of the Year. I can remember playing against Tyler when I was in high school, and he was just a sophomore at St. Joe's at the time, and you knew then what was ahead for him. He had a great opening preseason game for the Pittsburgh Steelers last night, so it was nice to see that, but a very obvious choice and well deserved.
We hope he can keep that up too. He's obviously he had a great high school career and a great obviously a great career at Temple. So moving on to the next level, and we'll see if he can continue.
Jenna Bike of the St. Joe's girls soccer team was the winner for Trumbull. She was selected as the National Player of the Year for that sport. Weston's Mark Berkowitz, the high school athletic director, winning there. Nice to see a position off the field behind the scenes who gets recognized with that award right there.
Yes, yeah, and then again another out of the box pick by the commission, and good to see them honoring a different range of people.
Yes. Westport's Lucas Hausman, who is a Bowdoin College basketball standout, was the final selection of the list. With the 16 new honorees, the FCSC has honored a total of 183 local sports persons now. We offer our congratulations to the newest 16, and we look forward to the many more that will join in the future. But again, Dave, it's such a wide variety of selections. You've got teams, you've got individual athletes, pairs of athletes, athletic directors, and it's a list that covers all the necessary spots.
It's a great look at local sports, and just on all different types of levels here. One we did go by here was the late Tom Fujitani.
Excuse me,
of Wilton football,
sorry,
which
yes.
is a big one for. Wilton, obviously Wilton football he's synonymous with Wilton football.
It was a huge one. We mentioned that on Coffee Break back on Monday. We talked about it, and that's why he's actually redacted from my original list. We had a little write-up on all his accomplishments, but what Tom Fujitani did for that Wilton football program, you can't put into words, and it was well-deserved, and I thought a great choice.
It's another
for
great
the town of Wilton.
Yeah, another great choice to honor him, and what can you say about him? When they put the word legendary in there, that's perfect.
It's exactly right. Dave, I promised you some football at the beginning of the show, and we will get to that now. Let's start the Connecticut Lineman Challenge. For the third year in a row, as we're going to get used to hearing that now, I'm sure, the Darien line offensive lineman won that challenge. But what's more impressive, I think, is they decided to bring up a B team this year, and that B team came in fourth out of the 33 teams that competed.
That's, if you're in the FCAC now and you're thinking maybe Darien might be, with all the seniors they graduated, they might slide back a little bit. You see that from the line. That's where it really starts in football. Once we have all the 7-7s going on now, but when you get into the nitty-gritty of the season, the line is where it starts. And the fact that Darien is so deep on the line right now, from these results, that's got to be a scary thought for their opponents.
Well, let me put this into perspective. Darien finishes first with the A team, fourth with the B team. Trinity Catholic comes in, finishes ninth. That's their best finish in this event all time. Fairfield Prep finished 11th. That's a pretty good job for a bunch of sophomore and junior kids who they don't even think are going to be playing this year to come up and finish fourth.
Yeah, and and that goes to show that they're what the depth they have in that program is right now. And if they lose somebody, they obviously have people who can step up and fill the spots, and so it's the next man up. And really, when it comes to football, it is a game of attrition in a lot of cases, keeping guys on the field, especially with the linemen. They get banged up. You don't necessarily see that on every player, but a lot of people are watching the ball flying through the air with passing and wide receivers, or a great play by the running back, breaking a long run. But the line is where it starts, and that's what's protecting the quarterback. That's what's allowing those long passes and breaking things open for the running backs. And Darien's got it.
Their strength coach, John Carlozzi of Vibe Fitness, who we actually interviewed before the Lacrosse FCX Championships, went up with them for the third consecutive year, and he just preached how this is the hardest working team in the state. and he was the one who suggested to Rob Trifone, let's bring up a B team just so they can get a feel for the competition. I don't even think he even expected that they could finish this well, but it shows you the confidence that this staff and this whole program has in their younger players now as well.
Yeah, and it's a cool thing to be involved with, and that can only help those younger kids. It can only help their confidence moving forward.
So the target on the back of Darien just continues to get bigger and bigger as they keep finding success, not only during the regular season, but now in the off season. Dave, you actually brought some pictures of what looks to be the new Dunning Stadium going down.
The turf is going down. It's it's getting there. They're about halfway. I would say halfway through right now. It's going down pretty quickly. Too. They had it delivered, I believe, earlier this week that the turf arrived. Scheduled to be to arrive around I want to say the second or the third. So it was a little bit late getting there, but it seems to be going down in a hurry. We've got the bags of turf there. But it should be ready for the start of the season. Things are looking good, and it looks great on the field right now. It's going to be a great finished product.
Hopefully the town can find, all the athletes at least, can find a way to just resist going on there long enough so that we'll be good to go. We'll be at New Canaan on September, I believe it is the 16th, a Friday night when Ridgefield comes there and New Canaan opens up the new stadium. 20 days till football, Dave. We're getting closer and closer, and next week, this Wednesday show will be our last show before we jump onto our FCX tour, and we'll be starting up at Ridgefield High School.
That'll be very interesting. Those tours were fun last year. I think the captains had fun with those, and what I liked about the tour last year was just the way the kids reacted to it. They had a good time. They were all getting together. They got to see each other on the captains for the other teams, and it just seemed like they were a good time is just what seems to be what it was all about. And we learned a lot about the teams going into, a lot about the personalities, and it was great for everybody involved.
Wow, we are very excited for that. That'll start up next Thursday morning. Dave and I and Nutmeg Sports, we're done for the week, but you've got Coffee Break tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Kate Chaplinsky. We will see you then, right here on the HAN Network.